Hi, all you cool cats and kittens. Carol Baskin here. Mr. Maureen. How are y'all doing? Um, I wanted to make a screencastify about our upcoming 2 week Chapter 10 unit. Much of this is pared down from what we would otherwise do in class. One of the highlights being you are only required to do 4 MRQs across the next 2 weeks. I did not misspeak. 4 total MRQs. So let's go through the playlist and choice board that I have set up in week 32 and 33, chapter 10, European Christendom. In fact, many of you will notice that I've already changed our Schoology course profile photo to indicate the chapter 10 materials. So we're moving into Western Europe this week and taking a look at how Christianity starts to be the local cultural and political force that eventually stitches together all of these rural areas in Western Europe. This happens after the expansion of the Islamic Empire, and that is why chronologically I think it makes more sense to do chapter 11 first, like we did in the last 2 weeks. So in our chapter 10 folder, we have some resources for you. You have 5 items for completion. They are labeled accordingly as items 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. This video is meant to serve as a visual going through of all of these materials. So it will be a little bit longer form than if you simply clicked on our chapter 10 materials and requirements overview and read through this rundown. I am going to do that in this video as well. So if you're someone who does not feel like you need the long-winded version of everything in this folder and you want to independently get after it, you may stop this video now. I will take no offense. For those of you who have stayed with me, I want to go through this deliberately so then you can refer back to this video, these material requirements as needed, and we can hopefully trim down on some of the individual spot cleaning questions that I'm getting throughout the weeks. So, chapter 10, European Christendom. This is our second to last chapter. We have 2 more 2-week units. So we have 1 month more of new materials. It breaks down like usual, week by week required reading, about 10, 15 pages each week. As a reminder for our Zoom call schedule, we have one this afternoon where I will be going through these materials with not quite as much depth as this video, and then a check-in on Friday, May the 1st. That is this Friday in our usual 10 a.m. spot. Next week, I'm going to hold no Zoom calls for the whole class. Let me repeat, there will be no Zoom calls on Tuesday 5/5 nor Friday 5/8. I will be not in front of my computer during those usual times. So instead, I'm going to offer you the opportunities for office hours if you would like to check in with me on Monday, Thursday, or Friday next week. That's 3:15 to 4:15. I've created those as an optional RSVP invitation in the Schoology calendar. So please reply yes, RSVP yes to those if you would like to attend. And I will set up a Zoom call or we could do a chat accordingly. So this will largely be an independent work unit. There's quite a bit of choice in terms of what types or modalities of information you take in, as well as what you submit. There are 5 required items, as I showed you in the front of the folder. This is a brief rundown of each of them. Item 1 is a discussion board of stimulus questions. This is similar to the 2 other ways that we've done this already. This time, however, there are 5 questions from the Chapter 10 test, which we will not be taking. Repeat, there will be no Chapter 5 stimulus multiple choice question test nor SAQ for this chapter. I would like you to answer all 5 of the questions with a typical 2-sentence analysis and a think aloud. Then respond to one of your peers in the discussion board who you agree with. Use supporting evidence and reasoning to corroborate their answer. And then respond to another peer who you disagree with their answer and use supporting evidence and reasoning to refute their answer. My goal is that you post your initial answers by next Wednesday, May the 6th, and then your replies by Friday, May the 8th. Item number 2, as I already alluded to, is 4 total MRQs. These are 10.2 and 5 for this week, and 10.8 and 11 for next week. You will get to choose which summary paragraph you submit each week. You are, again, only doing 2 MRQs each week. These are posted on the Schoology calendar, as well as the original MRQ schedule in more detail. As a quick note, yes, you should still be reading the entirety of Chapter 10, even though you're only doing 4 of the 12 MRQs. We'll take a look in this folder in a moment, but the third item is a choice board. You will choose any 2 of the read, listen, or watch activities in the orange Chapter 10 choice board folder. Take notes and then summarize into one detailed description style answer. There's no specific question that's being asked. This is more about you gathering spice tea details and deciding which are most essential as a summary answer. You can, of course, type these as usual. I'm giving you the option to also submit a spoken answer as an audio file if you want to try your hand at that. The last 2 items, 4 and 5, are the primary assessments for a Chapter 10 unit. One is a DBQ, similar to the Chapter 9 DBQ, and one is, of course, our Chapter 10 Quizlet vocabulary, as well as our European geography test. Since we're spending time in Western Europe for this unit, it makes sense to do our European countries as a part of our geography. So let's go over to the folder and take a look at the DBQ and read through those instructions. So we've already outlined, I was just inside the materials and requirements. We outlined item 1, the discussion board with 5 stimulus questions. These are the 2 different submissions for your MRQs, either 10.2 or 5 and either 10.8 or 11. And then we just went through an overview of the choice board activities. There are 2 crash course videos, there are 2 podcasts, and there is 1 choose your own adventure lecture, which I have not yet recorded to Screencastify for, but my goal is to submit one by Friday. So that would be me going through the lecture like this as a Screencastify. And then this is where you will submit both of your choices of the choice board. All right, the last 2 pieces here. The Justinian DBQ. So inside this folder, you have the DBQ packet and the DBQ submission. So let's take a look at the packet. I'm allowing you to either work on this as a solo or with one other partner. This is pretty similar to the Chapter 9 Buddhism in China DBQ in terms of what is asked of you. It is a little bit more simplified from that initial one, however. Give this document a second to load. I appreciate your patience. There it goes. Okay. So page 1. Our prompt for this DBQ is evaluate the reign and legacy of Emperor Justinian. The directions as either a solo individual or with one other partner of your choosing, complete a happy analysis for all 7 documents included in the DBQ. However, you are only required to complete 2 of the 4 parts of a happy analysis. For example, that could be the author's point of view or perspective and the historical context. So you'll read the document, and as part of your annotation and analytical brain, then choose the 2 elements of the happy statement that make the most sense or seem the most relevant when considering both the prompt and the document. This will become your eventual practice with DBQs, and it will not be the expectation that you ever do all 4 parts of the happy analysis. Part of it is you recognizing, oh, there's something significant about the author's bias that's reflected in the purpose of this document or who he was writing to or when he was writing or creating. And so part of your decision making will be to decide, oh, I'm going to focus on the author's point of view. After you've completed your happy analysis for all 7 docs, then synthesize your learning by composing a 3 to 4 sentence thesis paragraph. That means with a claim. This was an area where many people struggled in the Chapter 9, Buddhism in China DBQ. You prioritize trying to get all the information into the opening paragraph and referencing your documents instead of making a strong claim. So make a strong claim evaluating the reign and legacy of Emperor Justinian. Was it positive or was it negative? What were some of the specific impacts and long-term change or continuity that his rule led to? This is an interpretive and challenging DBQ. It's meant to be. I want to see how your analysis and evidence informs your argument. Please submit all parts of this assignment, that is roughly 8 paragraphs, if you think about the short paragraphs being the individual happy analyses for 7 documents, and then your thesis paragraph. Submit them as either a Google Doc or a Word doc submitted in the Dropbox in this item 4 folder. The second page is a grouping document graphic organizer, which will look familiar. It is not required. If it's helpful to you, use it. And lastly, item number 5 should be pretty familiar to you at this point. We've now done a few different assessments on Schoology. I just want to show you a couple of the parameters of this quiz, and then that will wrap up this overview of the Chapter 10 work. So, item 5, Chapter 10 vocabulary. The Quizlet for the Chapter 10 vocab has been shared with you in your Quizlet folder for our class. So please check that. Please subscribe to that class if you have not. I think I have 90 of you in there, so maybe only a few of you are missing. So this quiz is set up to launch this Friday after our call in Zoom, and will go all the way until Monday night, May the 11th, for the 2 full weeks of our playlist. Everything is due by 10 p.m. 2 weeks from yesterday. And you will have 3 attempts. The reason that I've done this is I had to reset and unlock probably close to a dozen people's quizzes on their second attempt with the Chapter 11 test in the last few days. So I'm hoping that a 3rd attempt will at least give you some of that troubleshooting opportunity. No, you will not be able to resume it. This is take it all in one 40-minute session. If you don't like your score, then you'll get a chance to take it again. I will absolutely be sure to enable partial credit on the European geography. I have learned my lesson there, and that you will have 20 of the 25 vocabulary words to consider. That rounds out the 5 items that you have to complete as a part of our Chapter 10 European Christendom 2-week unit. I hope this very thorough and exhaustive screencast has given you some sense of where we're going and what you are responsible for. See you on the Zooms.